My name is Kaylee Parker, and I'm 24 years old. I never believed in fate or destiny until the night my stargazing app showed me something impossible. It was a Tuesday evening in September when I downloaded SkyMap Pro on my phone. I'd been going through a rough patch. My boyfriend Jake had just broken up with me after 3 years together, claiming he needed space to find himself. I felt lost, heartbroken, and desperate for something to distract me from the emptiness in my chest. That's when my best friend Sarah suggested I try stargazing. She said it might help me gain some perspective on life. Little did I know that this simple suggestion would completely change everything I thought I knew about the universe and my place in it. The app was supposed to be straightforward. Point your phone at the sky, and it would identify constellations, planets, and stars in real time. I'd heard great reviews about it from other users online, and the 5-star rating convinced me to spend the $12 on the premium version. That first night, I climbed onto my apartment building's rooftop with my phone in hand, wrapped in my favorite oversized sweater. The city lights made it hard to see most stars with the naked eye, but the app promised to work even in light-polluted areas like downtown Portland. As I held up my phone and pointed it toward the northwestern sky, the screen filled with dotted lines connecting various stars. Everything seemed normal at first: Ursa Major, Cassiopeia, Polaris. But then something extraordinary happened that made my heart skip several beats. Right there, floating among the recognized constellations, was a new pattern of stars that the app had labeled with my exact name, Kaylee Parker. I blinked hard, thinking my eyes were playing tricks on me after staring at the bright screen. I lowered the phone, rubbed my eyes, and looked again. The constellation was still there, glowing softly with a pale blue light that seemed to pulse gently like a heartbeat. My hands started trembling as I screenshot the image. Afraid it might disappear if I looked away for even a second. How was this possible? I'd studied astronomy in college and knew that constellations were ancient patterns named thousands of years ago by civilizations that had never heard of Kaylee Parker from Portland, Oregon. Yet here it was, clear as day on my screen, defying everything I thought I understood about the night sky. I spent the next hour frantically researching online, trying to find any explanation for what I was seeing. Could this be some kind of personalized feature I'd accidentally activated? I scoured the app's settings, read through user manuals, and even called the customer service number, though it went straight to voicemail since it was nearly midnight. The more I investigated, the more confused I became. There was no mention anywhere of personalized constellations or custom star patterns in the app's features. Other users in online forums were discussing normal astronomical observations. Nobody else seemed to be seeing their own names written in the stars. I felt like I was losing my mind, questioning my own sanity as I stared at this impossible image on my phone screen. What would you do if something like this happened to you? Would you tell someone? Or would you keep it secret, afraid they'd think you were crazy? The next morning, I woke up convinced it had all been some kind of stress-induced hallucination. The breakup with Jake had been traumatic, and I hadn't been sleeping well for weeks. Maybe my exhausted brain had simply projected what I wanted to see onto my phone screen. But when I opened the app in broad daylight and looked at my saved screenshots, there it was again. The Kaylee Parker constellation, documented and undeniable. I decided to test whether this phenomenon was consistent, so I planned to return to the rooftop that evening. Throughout the day, I couldn't focus on anything else. My coworkers at the marketing firm noticed I seemed distracted during our team meeting, and my boss Jennifer asked if everything was okay. I just nodded and mumbled something about being tired. But inside, my mind was racing with questions and possibilities that I couldn't begin to answer. That second night, I brought Sarah with me to the rooftop. I hadn't told her the specific reason why, just that I wanted her opinion on something I discovered while stargazing. Sarah was always up for an adventure, and she'd been worried about my emotional state since the breakup. As we climbed the stairs to the roof, I felt my palms sweating with nervous anticipation. What if the constellation wasn't there tonight? What if Sarah couldn't see it, and I really was having some kind of mental breakdown? When we reached the top, I handed her my phone with the app already open and asked her to point it at the same area of sky where I'd seen my name the night before. I watched her face carefully as she held up the device, waiting for her reaction. The seconds felt like hours as I held my breath, preparing myself for either validation or devastating disappointment. "Oh my God, Kaylee," Sarah whispered, her voice filled with awe and confusion. "How is this possible? There's literally a constellation here with your name on it." She showed me the screen, and sure enough, the same pattern of stars was there, glowing even brighter than the night before. But that wasn't the most shocking part. Sarah pointed the phone at a different section of sky, and within minutes, another constellation appeared with her full name, Sarah Michelle Rodriguez, written in elegant script across a cluster of previously unnamed stars. We looked at each other in stunned silence, both realizing that whatever was happening here was far beyond anything we could rationally explain. The app was somehow creating personalized constellations for anyone who used it. But why? And more importantly, what did it mean? I felt a mixture of excitement and fear coursing through my veins as we documented everything with photos and videos. Over the following weeks, Sarah and I became obsessed with understanding this phenomenon. We tested the app with other friends, and each person who used it discovered their own named constellation in the night sky. My neighbor Marcus found his stars near Orion's belt, while my cousin Emma's appeared close to the Southern Cross. The patterns were always different, unique to each individual, and they seemed to grow brighter the more often someone viewed them. I started keeping a detailed journal, recording the exact coordinates, brightness levels, and any changes I noticed in my constellation over time. The stars that formed my name seemed to be shifting slightly each night, creating subtle variations in the letter shapes. Sometimes the K would be more angular. Other nights, the P in Parker would have a longer tail. It was as if the constellation was somehow alive, responding to my thoughts and emotions in ways I couldn't yet understand. The strangest part was how the constellation seemed to influence my daily life in unexpected ways. On nights when it appeared particularly bright, I'd wake up feeling more confident and energetic than I had in months. Ideas for creative projects would flow effortlessly, and I'd find myself making decisions with unusual clarity and purpose. Conversely, when the stars seemed dimmer or harder to locate, I'd feel anxious and uncertain about my future. I began to wonder if there was some kind of cosmic connection between my personal constellation and my emotional well-being. Was this all just psychological projection, or was something genuinely supernatural happening? The rational part of my brain insisted there had to be a scientific explanation, but my heart was beginning to believe in something far more magical and mysterious than anything I'd ever imagined possible. 3 months after discovering my constellation, something incredible happened that changed everything. I was going through another difficult period. I'd been laid off from my marketing job due to company downsizing, and my savings were running dangerously low. I felt like a failure, questioning every decision I'd made in my adult life. That night, as I sat on the rooftop feeling sorry for myself, I pointed my phone toward my constellation with little enthusiasm. But instead of the familiar pattern, the stars had rearranged themselves into something completely different. Where my name used to be written across the sky, there was now a clear arrow pointing toward the eastern horizon. Following the direction it indicated, I saw another new constellation that spelled out the words, "Trust your journey." I stared at this message for nearly an hour, feeling like the universe was speaking directly to me through these mysterious stars. The next morning, I received an unexpected phone call that would prove the constellation's message was prophetic. It was Elena Martinez, the creative director of a boutique advertising agency I'd never heard of. She'd somehow gotten my resume and portfolio from a mutual connection and wanted to meet with me about a position they were looking to fill. During our interview, Elena explained that they were specifically seeking someone with my exact combination of marketing experience and creative writing skills for a new campaign targeting young women. The salary was 30% higher than my previous job, and they offered flexible work-from-home options that would give me more time to pursue personal projects. As I signed the contract later that week, I couldn't help but think about how perfectly everything had aligned after my constellation had told me to trust my journey. Was this all just coincidence, or was something greater at work? My new job at Martinez Creative turned out to be everything I'd hoped for and more. I was working on campaigns for brands I genuinely cared about, collaborating with talented colleagues who respected my ideas, and finally earning enough money to feel financially secure. But the most significant change in my life came when I met David Chen, a freelance graphic designer who was working on one of our major projects. David was different from anyone I'd ever dated. Thoughtful, ambitious, and genuinely interested in my thoughts and dreams. Unlike Jake, who had always made me feel like I was too much or not enough, David appreciated my intensity and supported my goals without trying to change me. When I finally told him about my constellation discovery, expecting him to think I was delusional, he listened with genuine curiosity and asked if I'd show it to him sometime. That night, we climbed onto my building's rooftop together, and I nervously opened the stargazing app. As David pointed my phone toward the sky, something magical happened that I'll never forget. Not only did my original constellation appear, brighter and more defined than ever before, but a second pattern of stars formed right next to it, spelling out David Chen in elegant cursive letters. The two constellations seemed to pulse in perfect synchronization, their light growing stronger as they moved closer together across the dark canvas of night sky. David's face was illuminated by the soft glow from my phone screen as he stared in amazement at this impossible sight. "Kaylee," he whispered, "I think the universe is trying to tell us something." I felt tears streaming down my cheeks as I realized that everything I'd been through, the heartbreak with Jake, losing my job, feeling lost and alone, had all been leading me to this moment, this person, this connection that felt written in the stars, literally and figuratively. 6 months later, David proposed to me on that same rooftop, with our constellations shining overhead as witness to our love. He'd secretly been working with a custom jeweler to create an engagement ring that featured tiny diamonds arranged in the exact pattern of my constellation. When he got down on one knee and showed me the ring, explaining how he'd spent weeks perfecting the design to match my stars, I knew without a doubt that he was the person I was meant to spend my life with. Our wedding was small but perfect, held in Sarah's backyard under the open sky, so our constellations could be present for the ceremony. As we exchanged vows, I looked up and saw both our star patterns glowing more brilliantly than ever before, as if the universe was celebrating our union. I couldn't help but think about how different my life might have been if Jake hadn't broken up with me. If I'd never downloaded that app, if I'd never looked up at the sky that first night. Now, 2 years later, David and I have built a beautiful life together that exceeds anything I could have imagined during those dark months after my breakup. We've started our own creative agency, combining his design skills with my marketing expertise to help small businesses tell their stories more effectively. Every night, we still climb onto our rooftop. We bought a house with a perfect view of the sky and check on our constellations. They've remained constant companions, sometimes bright and encouraging when we're facing challenges, other times gentle and peaceful when life is flowing smoothly. We've introduced several friends and family members to the app, and each person has discovered their own unique constellation that seems perfectly tailored to their personality and life path. My sister's stars form patterns that look like musical notes, reflecting her career as a pianist, while my dad's constellation resembles the tools of his beloved woodworking hobby. The most incredible development happened just last month when David and I discovered a third constellation appearing between ours. A small, delicate pattern that seems to represent the child we're expecting in the spring. We haven't told anyone about this latest celestial addition yet, but we spend hours each evening watching these 3 sets of stars dance together in the darkness above our heads. I often wonder about the app's mysterious creator and whether they realize the profound impact their creation has had on people's lives. Have they experienced their own constellation miracle, or are they simply a conduit for something greater than themselves? Sometimes I think about reaching out to share my story, but part of me prefers to keep the mystery intact. There's something beautiful about not fully understanding how or why this magic works. It reminds me that there's still wonder and possibility in a world that often feels predetermined and limiting. Looking back on everything that's happened since that first night I saw my name written in the stars, I'm filled with overwhelming gratitude for the journey that brought me here. What started as a desperate attempt to distract myself from heartbreak became the key to unlocking a life more beautiful than anything I dared to dream. I learned that sometimes the worst things that happen to us, the rejections, the setbacks, the moments when we feel completely lost, are actually the universe's way of redirecting us towards something better. My constellation taught me to trust the process even when I couldn't see where it was leading, to believe in magic even when logic suggested otherwise, and to remain open to possibilities that seemed too good to be true. If I hadn't been willing to look up at the sky that night, to embrace something inexplicable and wonderful, I might still be stuck in relationships and situations that were limiting my potential. The lesson I want to share with all of you is this. Pay attention to the signs around you, even the ones that seem impossible or too strange to be real. The universe has ways of communicating with us that go far beyond our normal understanding, and sometimes the guidance we need comes from the most unexpected sources. Whether it's a constellation with your name on it, a chance encounter that changes everything, or an opportunity that appears just when you need it most. Trust that there's a greater plan unfolding even when you can't see it clearly. Your story is being written across the sky in ways you might never have imagined, and every twist and turn is leading you exactly where you need to be. Don't be afraid to download that app, take that chance, or follow that inexplicable feeling that something magical is about to happen in your life.